Welcome to the Ultimate Sports Blog Podcast. Today is Wednesday, February 6, 2019. Today I'm going to recap yesterday's college hoops, NBA, and NHL games, look ahead to tonight's slate in each of those sports. I'm going to revisit my NFL preseason predictions, talk about two big NBA trades, one that happened last night, or actually no, there's two trades that happened last night, and then one that happened just a couple minutes ago, an NHL trade that happened a few minutes ago, and then do my predictions for the NBA trade deadline, which a couple of these predictions are blown already, but because there's players involved in the trade that happened today that were in my predictions. So I'm just going to put the predictions up at the end of the podcast anyway, because I taped it prior to those trades from last night and this morning. All right, to college hoops we go. Only a few games on last night's slate. I believe there was only 22 on last night's slate. Number 2, Duke defeats Boston College 80-55. Number 5, Kentucky defeats South Carolina 76-48. Illinois upsets number 9, Michigan State 79-74. Liberty defeats Stetson 57-54. Toledo defeats Akron 63-52. Loyola Chicago defeats Drake 86-64. Bowling Green defeats Western Michigan 85-72. LaSalle defeats St. Joe's 83-69. Kent State defeats Miami of Ohio 70-67. Manhattan defeats Rider 73-66. Wake defeats Pitt 78-76 in overtime. Number 7, Michigan defeats Rutgers 77-65. Number 8, North Carolina defeats NC State 113-96. St. John's defeats number 10, Marquette 70-69. Number 22, Florida State defeats Syracuse 80-62. Valparaiso defeats Illinois State 69-53. Ball State defeats Illinois 72-71. Northern Illinois. Number 1, Tennessee defeats Missouri 72-60. Kansas State defeats number 13, Kansas 74-67. St. Louis defeats Dayton 73-60. Auburn defeats Florida 76-62. Arkansas defeats Vanderbilt 69-66. Utah State defeats Fresno State 82-81, and New Mexico defeats San Diego State 83-70. Tonight's games, there are a lot more. 6 o'clock on the CBS Sports Network, UConn at Temple. Temple's favored by 4. They're going to win and cover. 7 o'clock, number 24, Maryland at Nebraska on the Big Ten Network. Nebraska's favored by 2. They need to win badly. I think they get it done at home and they cover. A&M and Ole Miss on the SEC Network. Ole Miss is favored by 9. I think the Rebels win, but the Aggies cover. Maine at Vermont, Notre Dame at Miami. Miami's favored by 3.5. I think Miami wins, but Notre Dame covers. Hartford at UMBC. Lipscomb at North Florida. Kennesaw State at Jacksonville. Clemson at Georgia Tech on the ACC Network. Clemson's favored by 3.5. This is a trap game. Georgia Tech has thrived as a home underdog this year against the mediocre teams in the ACC, and I think they get another upset at home over a mediocre ACC team. ESPN News, Wichita State at East Carolina. Wichita's a 5-point favorite. Guess what? I'm taking the Pirates to upset them. I just don't think the Shockers are good this year. North Alabama at Florida Gulf Coast. Lafayette, Boston University. American at Navy. ESPNU, Rhode Island at Davidson. Davidson's favored by 5. This is tough. I'm going to say they win. I'm going to take Davidson to cover 2, but I won't be surprised if Rhode Island wins the game outright. Evansville at Indiana State, Stony Brook at Binghamton, New Hampshire at UMass Lowell, George Mason at Richmond, Bucknell at Loyola, Maryland, VCU at George Washington, Fordham at UMass. UMass is favored by 5.5. I think they win and cover. George Mason's favored by 1.5. They'll win and cover. Army at Holy Cross, 7:30, New Orleans at Northwestern State. McNeese at Sam Houston State, Fox Sports 1, Georgetown at Providence. Providence is favored by 5.5. I'm going to say Providence wins, but Georgetown covers and keeps it close. Bonaventure at Duquesne. Duquesne's favored by 2. They'll win and cover easily. 8 o'clock on the CBS Sports Network. Creighton at number 14, Villanova. Nova's favored by 9. They'll win and cover. Bradley at Northern Iowa. Stephen F. Austin at Houston Baptist. Southern Illinois at Missouri State. Southeast Louisiana at A&M Corpus Christi. Georgia Southern at Louisiana. Baylor at Texas. Texas is favored by 3. Baylor's on a roll. I think they're going to upset Texas on the road. Georgia State at UL Monroe, North Dakota State at North Dakota, Abilene Christian at Lamar, 9 o'clock Big Ten Network, number 19 Wisconsin at Minnesota. Wisconsin's favored by 2.5. I think Minnesota's going to pull this off at home. Minnesota's not a bad team. I just think Wisconsin's due to lose, and Minnesota's due for a good win to put themselves in a good position to get in at large. Number 21 LSU at Mississippi State. Mississippi State's favored by 3. The game's on ESPN2. I think LSU, that was a terrible loss against Arkansas the other day. Mississippi State needs the game more because they're home, so give me Mississippi State. Wyoming at Air Force. Air Force is favored by 8. I think Air Force wins and covers. Georgia at Alabama. Bama's favored by 8.5. Bama's going to win and cover. They're the better team, and they're playing really good basketball right now. Oklahoma State at TCU on ESPNU. TCU's favored by 8.5. They'll win and cover. Colorado at UCLA on the Pac-12 Network. UCLA's favored by 6. They'll win and cover. 9:30 Fox Sports 1. California at Oregon. Oregon's favored by 16. Oregon's going to destroy them. They'll win and cover. 10 o'clock on the CBS Sports Network. Nevada, who's number 6 right now, against Colorado State. Nevada's favored by 12.5. They'll win and cover. Fullerton at UC Irvine. Northridge at Santa Barbara. 11 o'clock Pac-12 Network. Utah at USC. USC's favored by 5.5. They'll win and cover. And on ESPNU at 11 o'clock, UNLV at Boise. Boise's favored by 5.5. I'm going to say that Boise wins, but UNLV covers. NBA. 8 games last night. The Pistons defeat the Knicks 105-92. The Clippers defeat the Hornets 117-115. The Celtics defeat the Cavaliers 103-96. The Pacers defeat the Lakers 136-94. That was the worst regular season loss of LeBron James' career from a standpoint of margin. The Raptors defeat the 76ers 119-107. A good win for Toronto. Grizzlies defeat the Timberwolves 108-106. The Thunder defeat the Magic 132-122. And the Heat defeat the Trailblazers 118-108. A fantastic win for the Miami Heat on the West Coast. Tonight, 7-game slate. 7:30, the Nuggets at the Nets. 8 o'clock, the Pelicans at the Bulls. 8 o'clock on ESPN, the Wizards at the Bucks. Milwaukee's a 12-point favorite. I think that Milwaukee is going to win, but Washington will cover and keep it close, courtesy of Bradley Beal. 8:30, the Hornets at the Mavericks. 9 o'clock, the Suns at the Jazz. 10 o'clock, the Rockets at the Kings. And 10:30 ESPN, the Spurs at the Warriors. Golden State's laying 14.5. I think Golden State wins, but San Antonio covers. I think 14.5 is too big. I think this should be a 10-point spread rather than 14. I think I'm getting like 4 extra points. I think this is probably a 10-point finish. I could see this being 110-100 Golden State. NHL. There were a lot of games on last night's slate. The Bruins defeat the Islanders 3-1. The Sabres defeat the Wild 5-4 in the shootout. Big win for Buffalo. Blues defeat the Panthers 3-2. The Kings defeat the Devils 5-1. Back-to-back wins for LA. And Ilya Kovalchuk's return to New Jersey last night. The Hurricanes defeat the Penguins 4-0. Big win for the Canes. The Capitals defeat the Canucks 3-2. Much needed win for Washington. Canadians defeat the Ducks 4-1. Ducks are in absolute free fall right now. Golden Knights defeat the Lightning 3-2 in a shootout. Fantastic win for Vegas. Then their losing streak. Predators defeat the Coyotes 5-2. The Sharks defeat the Jets 3-2 in overtime. The Blue Jackets defeat the Avalanche 6-3, and the Blackhawks defeat the Oilers 6-2. That's, I believe, 6 straight losses now for Edmonton. And by the way, Colorado's been playing really bad lately too. I wonder if they become a seller. Only 2 games on tonight's slate at 7:30. You have the Senators at the Maple Leafs, and at 8 o'clock on NBC Sports Network, the Bruins and the Rangers. Kenny Albert, Eddie Olczyk, Pierre McGuire on the call. Rangers have been playing good hockey up until recently. They lost their last 2 games. They're home. And that was just a bad loss the other night. The backup goalie's in net tonight for the Rangers. Boston needs this game the worst way. This is a tough call. You know what? I'm going to take the Rangers at home only because I just think Boston's looking ahead a little bit. They were happy with the whole Patrice Bergeron thing, and I just think that they're going to be looking past the Rangers a little bit, and New York takes advantage. I won't be shocked if this game goes to overtime or a shootout. Now I want to talk about a trade that happened in the NHL last night. Brian Boyle was traded from the New Jersey Devils to the Nashville Predators for 2 second-round picks. I think Nashville overpaid a little bit for a guy that is a good player, but I think is past his prime. He's a good playoff performer. But 2 second-round picks is a huge win for Ray Shero and the Devils. For Brian Boyle, who to me is a third-line center at best. And I'm sure that the market for superior players to Boyle just got higher. So once the NHL trade deadline gets closer, I'll do predictions for those as well. So it looks like New Jersey selling off pieces, Nashville trying to replace the veteran void left out by Mike Fisher by bringing in Brian Boyle, who's similar to Mike Fisher. I'd say a little better than Mike Fisher. So a good addition for Nashville and Peter Laviolette. Now I'm going to revisit my NFL predictions from before the season. I'm going to tell you what I predicted, and then I'll tell you what actually happened. In the AFC East, I had New England going 12-4. I had Buffalo going 6-10, and each the Jets and the Dolphins going 5-11. In reality, New England went 11-5, so I got that division correct. I had Miami Miami went 7-9, so they went 2 games better than I thought they would. Buffalo, I was correct at 6-10, and I was off on the Jets. They won 1 less game than I thought they would. They went 4-12. The AFC North, I had Pittsburgh winning the division at 11-5, Cincinnati second at 8-8, third the Ravens at 6-10, and fourth the Browns at 4-12. I was way off on this division. The Ravens won the division at 10-6, so they went the opposite of what I thought. Pittsburgh went 9-6-1. The Browns went 7-8-1, finished in third, and then last was the Bengals at 6-10. The Bengals were a big disappointment this year. The AFC South, I had the Texans winning the division at 10-6. I had the Titans coming in second at 10-6 and getting a wild card. I had the Jaguars at 9-7 in third, and I had the Colts in last at 5-11. What actually happened? Indy ended up getting the second wild card. They went 10-6, not Tennessee. Houston went 11-5. They finished 1 game better than I thought, although I was correct on them winning the division. Tennessee ended up going 9-7, and the Jaguars ended up going 5-11. The AFC West, I had the Chargers winning the division before the year at 11-5. I had the Chiefs coming in second at 10-6 and getting the first wild card. I had Denver at 7-9. I had Oakland at 5-11. So the only where I screwed up was I had the division winner and the wild card team wrong in that division. Kansas City and the Chargers both went 12-4, but KC won the division, and the Chargers came in second. Denver went 6-10, and then Oakland went 4-12. So I was right about those 2 teams. In the NFC, Dallas Cowboys won the division. Philly came in second, and I had Philly coming in first at 11-5, Dallas in second at 8-8. I had the Giants third at 7-9, and then Washington fourth at 6-10. Reality, Dallas went 10-6 and won the division. Philly went 9-7 and got a wild card. Washington went 7-9, and the Giants went 5-11. The NFC North, I had Minnesota winning division at 11-5, Green Bay second at 9-7, and the Bears in third at 6-10, and Detroit in fourth at 6-10. I was way off here. The Bears won the division at 12-4. Minnesota went 8-7-1. Green Bay went 6-9-1. Detroit went 6-10. So at least I got Detroit right, and Detroit coming in last as well. NFC South before the year, believe it or not, I had the Carolina Panthers winning the division at 12-4. I had the Saints as the first wild card at 10-6. Atlanta as the second wild card at 10-6. Tampa Bay in last at 4-12. What actually happened? The Saints went 13-3 and were the number 1 overall seed in the NFC. Atlanta came in second at 7-9. Carolina was third at 7-9, and then Tampa Bay went 5-11 and finished in last. The NFC West, before the year, I had the Rams finishing at first at 12-4. I had the Seahawks second at 8-8. I had the Niners third at 7-9, and then last I had the Cardinals at 6-10. I was way off here from a record standpoint on a couple of these teams, especially the last two. The Rams ended up going 13-3, so they went one game better than I thought. The Seahawks went 10-6 and made the playoffs and got the first wild card. San Francisco went 4-12. Well, that was because their quarterback got hurt. And then Arizona came in last at 3-13. They were a disaster. I had in the preseason in the Super Bowl, I had the Rams over the Texans. Hey, at least I got the Rams being in the Super Bowl right. And it ended up being Patriots over Rams. Awards, I had winning the MVP, Deshaun Watson, who won it, Patrick Mahomes. Offensive Player of the Year, I had Todd Gurley. Patrick Mahomes won that too. The Defensive Player of the Year, I was correct. I had Aaron Donald. The Offensive Rookie of the Year, I was right. I said Saquon Barkley. Defensive Rookie of the Year, I had Bradley Chubb. It ended up being Darius Leonard. Coach of the Year, I had Bill O'Brien. It ended up being Matt Nagy. And the Comeback Player of the Year, I had Deshaun Watson. It ended up being Andrew Luck. My bold predictions before the year. For the Cardinals, I said that Sam Bradford would start most games. That was a no. Atlanta, I had Vic Beasley finishing in the top 10 in sacks. No. Ravens, Jim Harbaugh and team part ways. No, they ended up making the playoffs, so they did not part ways. The Bills, I said that Josh Allen starts before week 5. I said that, and that ended up being a yes. Christian McCaffrey over 1,500 all-purpose yards, yes. Andy Dalton throws for more touchdowns and passing yards than Dak Prescott, no, because Dalton got hurt. Baker Mayfield starts more games than Tyrod Taylor, yes. Jason Garrett fired, no. Vance Joseph fired, yes. Matthew Stafford under 5,000 yards, yes. Green Bay, Mike McCarthy fired, yes. Deshaun Watson for MVP, no. T.Y. Hilton, top 15 in receiving yards. Yes, that was a good prediction by me. Jacksonville Jaguars, Calais Campbell, top 5s in sacks. No. Patrick Mahomes throws more yards and touchdown passes than Alex Smith. Yes, and that was by a landslide. Joey Bosa leads the league in sacks. No. Todd Gurley leads the league in rushing. No, although he was top 3. Adam Gase fired, yes. Dalvin Cook, top 10 in rushing yards, no. Patriots not in the AFC title game, no, they obviously were, and then they won the Super Bowl. Marshawn Lattimore leads the league in interceptions, no. Saquon Barkley, the Offensive Rookie of the Year, yes. Todd Bowles fired, yes. The Raiders finished last in the AFC West, yes. Carson Wentz back in September. Yes, he was back, I believe it was week 3. I remember they lost to Tampa Bay, and then they panicked and brought him back for that game against Indy, in which Indy almost won that game. Le'Veon Bell back before week 4. No, he didn't come back at all during the year. Richard Sherman looks washed up. Yes. Pete Carroll keeps his job. Yes. Dirk Cutter, first coach fired. No, it was Hugh Jackson. This was probably my biggest whiff. Marcus Mariota, top 10 in passing yards. No. And then John Gruden fired. No. And I think my best prediction I made on here was Matthew Stafford going under 5,000 yards. That seemed bold because he always tend to go over that. And then the other one was that Josh Allen would start before week 5. I thought that was a good one. And there's a couple no-brainers like Barkley and Bowles and even Vance Joseph being fired. The Carson Wentz thing was a good call too. And the miscellaneous predictions I said, these where I whiffed on a lot. I got a couple of these right too though. I said that the same NFC playoff teams from the 2017 season, no. There's a lot of different ones. The Bears obviously stand out, replacing the Vikings. The Saints still made it. Philly still made it. The Rams still made it. Dallas replaced Atlanta. And the other one was Seattle replaced somebody. Oh, Carolina. More than 2 coaches fired during the year? No. 2 coaches got fired, but not more than 2. Mike McCarthy and Hugh Jackson got fired during the season. Not standing for the anthem, an issue again. No, that was actually not a big problem this year, so that's good. I was actually happy I was wrong on that one. Multiple games decided on bad calls. No, but one game was, and we all know what game that was, and that was the NFC title game. Other than that, there were no games decided on a bad call. The helmet rule, a big factor. Yes, it was a huge factor. Allen has more starts than Baker Mayfield and Josh Rosen. That was a big no. Baker Mayfield came in week 3. Josh Allen was hurt a lot during the year, and then Josh Rosen eventually came in, I think it was like week 5. Less than 10 overtime games. No, there's 15 in the regular season and then the 2 in the playoffs, which were the AFC title game and the NFC title game. 3 or more flex primetime games. Yes, 3 of them were actually flexed. I remember Steelers-Jaguars was supposed to be primetime. That ended up, I believe, getting replaced by Vikings-Bears. And then Rams-Bears became a primetime game. And then Bengals-Chiefs, those 3 were all flexed. And then the Bengals-Chiefs one was very early because Jimmy Garoppolo got hurt, so they took out the Niners-Seahawks game and replaced it with Bengals-Chiefs, which wound up being a blowout. 10 or more players with 2,000 plus scrimmage yards. No, only 2 players did. Saquon Barkley and Ezekiel Elliott. Random games postponed due to weather. No. My preseason All-Pro team, Deshaun Watson, Todd Gurley, Christian McCaffrey, Odell Beckham Jr., Antonio Brown, Zach Ertz, Taylor Lewan, Andrew Norwell, Travis Kelce. No, I'm sorry. Jason Kelce, David DeCastro, Mitchell Schwartz, and then on the defense, Everson Griffin, Aaron Donald, Fletcher Cox, Joey Bosa, Von Miller, Luke Kuechly, Bobby Wagner, Anthony Barr, Marshawn Lattimore, Jalen Ramsey, Harrison Smith, Landon Collins, and then the special teams, Craig Zerline, Kern from the Titans, Farrell Cooper, and Budda Baker. And then it ended up being Patrick Mahomes, Todd Gurley, Tyreek Hill, Travis Kelce, DeAndre Hopkins, Michael Thomas, David Bakhtiari, Quentin Nelson, Jason Kelce, I was right about that, Zach Martin, Mitchell Schwartz, I got that right too. And then on defense, J.J. Watt, Khalil Mack, Aaron Donald, Fletcher Cox, Luke Kuechly, Bobby Wagner, Darius Leonard, Kyle Fuller, Stephon Gilmore, Eddie Jackson, and Derwin James, Desmond King. And then special teams, it ended up being Justin Tucker, Michael Dixon, Andre Roberts, Tyreek Cohen, and Adrian Phillips. My predictions for the second team was Tom Brady, Ezekiel Elliott, Alvin Kamara, DeAndre Hopkins, Julio Jones, Rob Gronkowski, Tyron Smith, Kaleki Yamaselli, Marquise Pouncey, Trey Turner, Lane Johnson, Chandler Jones, Linval Joseph, Ndamukong Suh, Calais Campbell, Jadeveon Clowney, C.J. Mosley, Smith from the Jaguars, Xavier Rhodes, Chris Harris, Kevin Byard from the Titans, and Malcolm Jenkins of the Eagles. And then the second team ended up being Drew Brees, Ezekiel Elliott, Christian McCaffrey, George Kittle, Julio Jones, Tyreek Hill, Dwayne Brown, and Teron Armstead actually tied for left tackle. Joel Bitonino from the Browns, Marquise Pouncey, I got that right, Marshall Yanda, Ryan Ramczyk. And then the defense wound up being Von Miller, Cameron Jordan, Myles Garrett, Danielle Hunter, Chris Jones, J.J. Watt. They voted Von Miller in for both linebacker and edge rusher. That's interesting for the second team for AP. And that's how I judge it, the AP All-Pro teams. And C.J. Mosley, Leighton Vander Esch, Byron Jones, Xavier Howard, Jamal Adams, Harrison Smith, Derwin James for just the defensive back position in particular. And then special teams for the second team was Aldrick Rosas of the Giants, Johnny Hecker from the Rams, Cordell Patterson, punt returner Desmond King, and then special teams player Corey Littleton from the Rams. And my all-rookie team prediction, I had quarterback Sam Darnold, running back Saquon Barkley and Daniel Jones, wide receivers Stephon Ridley and DJ Moore, tight end Mike Gesicki from the Dolphins, and then my offensive line Mike McGlinchey, Quentin Nelson, Billy Price, Will Hernandez, and Colton Miller. My pass rush was, for the all-rookie team prediction, Bradley Chubb, Deron Payne, Vita Vea, Sam Hubbard, Harold Landry, Tremaine Edmonds, Lorenzo Carter, and my secondary was Denzel Ward, Mike Hughes, Derwin James, and Minkah Fitzpatrick. And the rookie team wound up being Baker Mayfield, Saquon Barkley, Phillip Lindsay, Calvin Ridley, DJ Moore, Chris Herndon, offensive line Billy Price, Will Hernandez, Quentin Nelson, Mike McGlinchey, Braden Smith. And then the defense, the line was Bradley Chubb, Marcus Davenport, Deshaun Hand, Deron Payne, linebackers Darius Leonard, Roquan Smith, Leighton Vander Esch. And in the secondary was Jair Alexander, Denzel Ward, Jesse Bates, and Derwin James. And then special teams, kicker Jason Sanders, punter Michael Dixon, kickoff returner Tremon Smith, punt returner Christian Kirk, and your special teams player Zeke Turner from the Cardinals. So I did a good job. Obviously, Barkley was a slam dunk and ended up being Baker Mayfield instead of Sam Darnold. And the Browns looked like that was a good pick by them. Lindsay ended up being a big surprise. I was dead right on the receivers with Moore and Ridley. Chris Herndon was a surprise. Out of the offensive line, I got 4 of the 5 correct. Where I missed was I thought Colton Miller was going to be one of the tackles instead of ended up being Braden Smith. Bradley Chubb, I was right. Payne, I got right. And then out of the rest of the defense, I was right about Derwin James and Denzel Ward. So, like I said, some guys have disappointed in their rookie years, and other guys exceeded expectations. Like Phillip Lindsay, nobody had him as a first-team all-rookie before the year. Saquon Barkley, I said, was the shoe-in lock before the year. It ended up being Lindsay over Jones from the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And in my best rookies, I said Christian Kirk, which he was the special teams punt returner rookie. Calvin Ridley was a good pick. Hayden Hurst, I was wrong with the Ravens, ended up being Lamar Jackson. Tremaine Edmonds, I'd say that Josh Allen was the Bills' best rookie. DJ Moore, that was a good pick. From the Bears, I said Anthony Miller. Then ended up being Roquan Smith. I was right about Billy Price. I said that Denzel Ward would be the Browns' best rookie and ended up being Baker Mayfield by a landslide. I said Michael Gallup for Dallas and ended up being Leighton Vander Esch. For the Lions, I said Kerryon Johnson would be their best rookie. That ended up being Deshaun Hand. I said that Acanius St. Brown would be the Packers' best rookie. That ended up being Jair Alexander, the cornerback. I said that Akins would be the best rookie on the Texans. But that, I think, was incorrect by my part. There's somebody else that stood out to me more than him. Quentin Nelson of the Colts, that was a good pick, even though you can make a case easily for Darius Leonard. Jacksonville, I said DJ Chark. He was pretty good. I don't know if he was really their best rookie. Their first rounder this year was pretty good. Watts of the Chiefs, I said, but nope, it ended up being Traymon Smith, who was their best rookie. Derwin James, I think we were correct there for the Chargers. Noteboom of the Rams. He was actually pretty solid for them this year. Minkah Fitzpatrick of the Dolphins. He was solid. But you could argue that their best rookie was their kicker, Jason Sanders, who made some big kicks for them this year. They kept them pretty much in the playoff hunt, too. I said for Minnesota it'd be Mike Hughes. He was okay, but he didn't, stand out. New England, I said Sonny Michel. That is the correct pick. He was a big factor in their Super Bowl run, so he gets my nod for the Patriots' best rookie. I said for New Orleans it'd be Traquan Smith, the wide receiver, who was pretty good this year, but their best rookie was Marcus Davenport, who they traded up to get. New York's best rookie, Saquon Barkley, and then for the Jets, Sam Darnold. I still think Darnold was their best rookie, even though he didn't live up to expectations in year one. I said that Oakland's best rookie would be Colton Miller, the lineman. I think I whiffed there. Dallas Goedert for Philly, I was right about that. He made some big catches for them in the season. For Pittsburgh, I said James Washington, who made some plays for them this year. That was a good pick. San Francisco, I said Mike McGlinchey. I was right about that. Seattle, Rashawn Penny. I gotta be honest, he was good, but their best rookie was Michael Dixon. And then for Tampa, I said Ronald Jones. I was wrong there. I think Vita Vea probably had a better year than him, because Jones really didn't see some time. And then for Tennessee, I said Harold Landry. I think that was a flop by me. And then Deron Payne for Washington. I was right about that. Non-rookie breakout players, I said Hassan Reddick, Terrace McKinley, Marlon Humphrey, Dawkins, the lineman on the Bills, Christian McCaffrey, that was a good pick. Mitch Trubisky, you gotta say so because he made the Pro Bowl. And then Myles Garrett of the Browns was an excellent pick. John Ross of the Bengals, pretty good pick too. For the Cowboys, Jalen Smith, that ended up being a good pick. Garrett Bowles of the Broncos, not a good pick. Kenny Golladay, Lions, that was a good pick. King from the Packers, Desmond King. That wasn't that great of a pick. He wasn't even their best defensive back this year. It ended up being the rookie, Jair Alexander. Cunningham of the Texans had a pretty good year. Malik Hooker of the Colts had a good season, so that was a good pick. D.D. Westbrook was okay. Patrick Mahomes was the breakout player, perhaps in all of sports this year, so that was an excellent pick by me. Mike Williams had a good year at the Chargers. Rob Havenstein from the Rams had a pretty good year, so he deserves at least some love. And then Kenyon Drake of the Dolphins showed flashes again. Dalvin Cook didn't have the year we thought he would have. Trent Brown had a good year from New England. Williams of the Saints, the guy that made the mistake on the Minneapolis Miracle play, he didn't really stand out this year to me. Dalvin Tomlinson of the Giants was okay. Jamal Adams of the Jets was a good pick, so that gets a check mark. Carl Joseph of the Raiders, no. Derek Barnett of the Eagles had a good year, but not a breakthrough year per se. James Conner, Steelers, great year. That was a good pick. DeForest Buckner of the Niners, no. Jerron Reed of the Seahawks had a good year. He was one of their better defensive players. O.J. Howard got hurt. That wasn't a good pick. Corey Davis didn't have the year that we thought he would. And then Jonathan Allen of the Redskins was okay. And then most disappointing players, Robert Nkemdiche of the Cardinals. That was a good pick. Matthews of the Falcons, the lineman. That was a good pick. He didn't pan out. Brandon Carr deserves some credit for the Ravens' success. I don't want to say he was awful. So that was a bad pick. I think the best flop pick I made was Vontae Davis of the Bills. He ended up retiring at halftime of a game. C.J. Anderson of the Panthers, who they released, so I give that a check mark, although he thrived with the Rams in the playoffs. This was probably my biggest whiff of flop picks. I said Roquan Smith, but he ended up making the all-rookie team, so that was a bad pick by me. Vontaze Burfict of the Bengals didn't have that great of a year. Baker Mayfield, that was a bad flop pick, too. That was probably the worst flop pick on here of anybody. Tavon Austin, yeah, he was not that great. He made that big touchdown against the Giants, but other than that, he didn't really do much for the Cowboys. For Denver, I said Case Keenum. That ended up being a good pick. They went 6-10, and their offense wasn't very good. Eli Harold of the Lions didn't have a good year. Jimmy Graham, that was a good flop pick. Nick Martin of the Texans, that line was bad, so that was a good pick. Christine Michael of the Colts was a good pick. He wasn't even their starting running back. Ended up being Marlon Mack. Jacksonville, Blake Bortles, I was right there. Cam Irving, Chiefs. Chiefs had a good line this year, so I'm going to give Cam Irving some credit. Antonio Gates still made some plays for the Chargers this year, so that wasn't a flop. Dominique Easley from the Rams, he was okay. Frank Gore, Dolphins, he wasn't that bad. Laquan Treadwell, he just hasn't lived up to the hype, so I guess I was right there. Cardell Patterson, New England, he was good, so that was a bad pick by me. Robinson of the Saints, Patrick Robinson, he was okay for them this year. He wasn't a disappointment. I nailed the Giants and Jets picks respectively with Jonathan Stewart and Tremont Johnson. Stewart barely saw the field because of Saquon Barkley, and he's just washed up. And then Tremaine Johnson did not live up to the contract. Marshawn Lynch of the Raiders, that was a good pick. Nick Foles, that looked like a good pick early because they rushed back Carson Wentz, but then Wentz got hurt again. Foles led them to the playoffs, so that was a bad pick. So Foles did not disappoint. And perhaps his contract year. Bud Dupree of the Steelers, that wasn't that good. And then you have Richard Sherman, who I thought was bad this year. Jermaine Iafredi, the lineman on the Seahawks, that was a huge bust. He obviously was a flop. Jameis Winston I had on here. He wasn't bad this year, so that was an incorrect pick by me. Malcolm Butler, I don't think had that good of a year at the Titans, so that qualifies as a flop. And then Adrian Peterson, that was a bad pick. He actually exceeded 1,000 yards for the Redskins this year, so that flop pick actually panned out. So, or panned out for Peterson, didn't pan out for my sake. Now I'm going to talk about 2 NBA trades that happened last night before I do my predictions. And I made these predictions prior to the 2 big trades that happened last night and the one that happened today. The first one that happened last night, the Lakers acquired Reggie Bullock from the Detroit Pistons for Savai Mihailuk in a second-round pick. Reggie Bullock's a good shooter. He can shoot it from 3. Mihailuk's a good piece for Detroit to get back, plus the second rounder, which I don't think will convey until 2021. I think that's a good haul for Reggie Bullock. I like Bullock. He's just a bench player. He was starting on Detroit because Detroit is not so good in terms of their depth. So he'll come off the bench for the Lakers, and I think we'll hit some big 3-pointers for them. And they needed to make a deal because I don't think they're going to move for Anthony Davis, because I think New Orleans wants to wait, and I don't think the Lakers are willing to overpay with a lot of their young assets. But you never know. And I think despite that terrible loss last night, their playoff chances improved because the Clippers pretty much gave up on their season by trading away Tobias Harris and Mike Scott and Bojan Marjanovic to the Philadelphia 76ers for Landry Shamet, the 2020 first-round pick, the 21 unprotected Miami pick, and also in that deal, Wilson Chandler, who I think the Clippers will either buy out or just keep there. But yeah, the Clippers made a monster trade last night with Philly. There's 10 pieces involved. And I think this trade is a big win for the Clippers. That tells me that they think they can get somebody in free agency. Sixers improve their chances of getting out of the East. They get the shooting combo forward they're looking for in Tobias Harris. I thought they were going to go after a big, but they ended up going after the combo forward instead. I think Tobias is going to help him. He's in a contract year. Maybe Tobias will like it and end up resigning. I think this trade will only be a win for Philly is if they make the finals and if Tobias resigns. Because let's face it, they overpaid. That Miami unprotected 2021 pick is fantastic. Because the Miami Heat are a team in decline. And they're a team that won't be a contender in 2021 unless they have a superstar on the roster. Who knows, maybe Pat Riley will be retired by then. But that is just a fantastic call for the Clippers, and way to go, Jerry West. And now they are setting up for the summer, and they saw what the Knicks did, so I think we're looking for a deal to make somebody look foolish. And I even have an argument that haul that they got back was better than what the Knicks got back for Kristaps Porzingis because of that Miami pick. That Miami pick is going to be a lot better than those Dallas picks, that's for sure. But if these trades are wins for the Knicks and the Clippers, if they end up getting their superstars that they want in free agency. I know the Knicks are shooting for Kevin Durant. The Clippers are too, but I think it's more realistic they get Kawhi Leonard than Kevin Durant because all signs are pointing to Durant to New York. And if Durant goes to New York, then it's a major win for the Knicks. And I think that'd be a major win for the NBA as well. As the Clippers, if they would get Kawhi Leonard, that would just be fun. The LeBron versus Kawhi in the Staples Center. Although Durant to the Clippers would be fun too, because for the same reason as Durant and LeBron playing in the same building, but on 2 different teams. And the trade happened before I started recording this podcast. Thon Maker got traded from Detroit to Milwaukee for Stanley Johnson. Change of scenery trade for both these players. I think Maker will see more time in the trade, and obviously Johnson, I think, will come off the bench for Milwaukee. Solid deal by both sides. Now I'm going to do something very risky. I'm going to predict trades that are going to happen prior to the trade deadline. I'm recording this segment of the podcast on Tuesday night on the 5th. And it will be obviously attached to today's podcast on the 6th. As if today people are listening to the podcast. I'm talking about not today, but like today as in tomorrow. Without further ado, here we go. The Atlanta Hawks will trade Dwayne Dedmon to the Philadelphia 76ers for Zaire Smith in the second rounder. Dedmon goes to a contender. Sixers give up a young asset in Smith and the second rounder. Boston acquires Taj Gibson for a second round pick. Gibson is stuck in a bad situation in Minnesota, and I think that he gets traded to a contender in Boston. He'd be a big help, a good guy to come off the bench for them. The Brooklyn Nets acquire Nikola Mirotic for a lottery-protected first-round pick. This will be a solid pickup for Brooklyn, who has a need at the power forward position in terms of a shooting. The Charlotte Hornets, before I give out this prediction, there is a report that they're in strong talks with the Memphis Grizzlies about Marc Gasol. So I had this trade written down before Shams reported that Gasol Hornets connection. Assuming that doesn't happen, Charlotte trades Frank Kaminsky to Orlando in a big deal, in a 3-team deal, and they dump Nick Batum in the deal to Toronto as Charlotte takes on Serge Ibaka's salary in a blockbuster and acquires a second-round pick from the Magic. And if the Gasol deal were to happen, I would predict it would be Gasol going to Charlotte for a 2019 top 10 protected pick, Malik Monk, and Frank Kaminsky. And obviously that Orlando trade doesn't happen. The Chicago Bulls, unable to find a taker for Jabari Parker, so they buy him out. Cleveland Cavaliers, unable to find a taker for J.R. Smith and Matthew Dellavedova as those two veterans get bought out. Dallas Mavericks trade Harrison Barnes to the Sacramento Kings for Zach Randolph and a future lottery-protected first-round pick. The Denver Nuggets acquire Wayne Ellington from the Miami Heat for a second-round pick. The Detroit Pistons trade Stanley Johnson and Reggie Jackson to the Phoenix Suns for Josh Jackson, Troy Daniels, and a second-round pick swap. So that would kind of do like a failed lottery pick for failed lottery pick with veteran, and then they dump Reggie Jackson to Stanley Johnson, so they get out from under that contract, and they take on Josh Jackson, Troy Daniels, and a swap of seconds. The Golden State Warriors acquire James Johnson from the Miami Heat for a second rounder. Johnson would be a good bench piece for them. The Rockets acquire Trevor Ariza from the Washington Wizards for Gary Clark in the future second rounder. The Indiana Pacers acquire Drew Holiday from the New Orleans Pelicans for a 2019 lottery-protected first-rounder, Aaron Holiday, and TJ Leaf. The Los Angeles Clippers sign Enes Kanter after the New York Knicks buy him out. The Los Angeles Lakers acquire Justin Holiday from the Memphis Grizzlies for 2 second-rounders. 2 second-rounders was the price for Holiday from the Bulls, and I think that'll be the same price that the Grizzlies want from whoever wants to trade for him. In this case, it'd be the Lakers. The Memphis Grizzlies trade Mike Conley to the Detroit Pistons for a 2020 lottery-protected first-rounder, Bruce Brown, and Kyrie Thomas. That'd be a nice package for Conley for Memphis. The Miami Heat salary dump Dion Waiters and attaches a second-rounder to the Brooklyn Nets for Rondae Hollis, Jefferson, Theo Pinson, and Zonzon Musa. This is because I think Miami wants to clear cap space for this summer's free agent class to try to get in on the sweepstakes for Kevin Durant and Klay Thompson and Kyrie Irving and whomever else will be on the market. The Milwaukee Bucks acquire Robin Lopez from the Chicago Bulls for Thon Maker and a second-rounder. I just like the thought of the two Lopez's on the same team. The Minnesota Timberwolves are unable to find a taker for Derrick Rose, so they buy him out. The New Orleans Pelicans, despite much chatter, they keep Anthony Davis for now. The New York Knicks trade Noah Vonleh to the Warriors for a second rounder. The Warriors need a backup big. Vonleh would be good. The backup boogie. The Oklahoma City Thunder sign Vince Carter off the buyout market. That would just be a nice pickup veteran that can come off the bench, give them 5 minutes at half. The Orlando Magic trades Terrence Ross to Milwaukee for Sterling Brown, DJ Wilson, and the second rounder. A lesser player on an expiring deal would clear some cap space. DJ Wilson's an interesting prospect. And then obviously the second round pick. Although I know they want a first for Ross, but I don't think he's worth that. The Philadelphia 76ers signed Matthew Dellavedova after the Cavaliers buy him out. That would be a pretty good get for Philly to come off the bench for them. And he's played in big games before, obviously, with the Cavs. The Phoenix Suns trade Kelly Oubre Jr. to the Oklahoma City Thunder for Patrick Patterson, Alex Abrines, and a 2019 first rounder. Oubre would be a great fit. He would fit as like a wing player for them. Move Paul George to power forward. Then you have Steven Adams, and then obviously Westbrook and Ferguson. So they can go small against anybody. And that would just be a great deal for Oklahoma City. Oubre's having a good season. The Portland Trailblazers signed Jeremy Lin off the buyout market. They traded some of their backup guards in the Rodney Hood deal. So it'd be only fitting for them to sign Lin. The Sacramento Kings trade Willie Cauley-Stein to the Miami Heat and observe Hassan Whiteside. It's contract of the future first rounder. Cauley-Stein's an expiring. Miami wants to get on the free agent game. This is their way of doing it. The San Antonio Spurs acquire Marc Gasol for Jakob Poeltl, Lonnie Walker, and an unprotected first-round pick. But if Marc Gasol goes to Charlotte, as strong reports indicate that he might, then I think San Antonio will just sign Wesley Johnson after the Pelicans buy him out. The Toronto Raptors acquired Nikola Vucevic from the Orlando Magic in that 3-team blockbuster. Jonas Valanciunas to Orlando in the trade, and Toronto takes on Nick Batum, and they sent off Serge Ibaka to Charlotte. And Toronto gives up a future first-round pick and sends that to Orlando. So that would be an interesting deal. Vucevic on expiring. Valanciunas isn't expiring too, but I think Toronto wants to upgrade and wants to win now. The Utah Jazz signed Wesley Matthews after New York buys him out. This would be a good signing for Utah. He can either start or come off the bench. And the last prediction. The Washington Wizards trade Otto Porter Jr. to the Utah Jazz for Derek Favors and Dante Exum. Exum and Favors, I believe those contracts match Porter. If not, they come close, then Utah would have to throw something else in. So Porter would then be a good combo player for them. Maybe they'll have Ingles come off the bench or have Porter start at power forward as Washington finally gets Porter Jr. off their hands and they start to begin the rebuild a little bit, and Exum and Favors are two players under contract and they can provide minutes for them or whatnot. Or Utah would have to throw in Grayson Allen in there to make it work, as Washington would get a young player in return. So it should be an interesting trade deadline season for sure. We'll see if that Charlotte deal goes through, but like I said, if that Charlotte deal does not happen, I have Charlotte, my prediction for them, trading Frank Kaminsky to Orlando, meanwhile dumping Nick Batum onto the Raptors as Charlotte takes on Serge Ibaka's contract and gets a second-round pick from the Magic as Toronto acquires Nikola Vucevic from Orlando as they sent a first-round pick to Orlando and sent Jonas Valanciunas to Orlando as well. And then I have the Spurs acquiring Marc Gasol for Jakob Poeltl, Lonnie Walker, and an unprotected first-round pick. And like I said, if Gasol goes to Charlotte, then we'll go with the Wesley Johnson pickup for San Antonio via the buyout. Now I'm going to do my best bet, brought to you by DraftKings. An 11-legger moneyline parlay. The Bucks, the Jazz, the Warriors, and in college basketball, Jacksonville, North Florida, Vermont, UMass Lowell, Sam Houston State, Villanova, Oregon, and Nevada, plus 178 to win $2.78. That's it for the podcast today. I'm going to do my podcast later than usual tomorrow because I want to see what happens at the trade deadline. So we'll come on tomorrow, recap all the deals, and then go over all the games and all the sports, and then look ahead to tomorrow night's slate with my best bet as well. Hope you guys have a great day, everybody.